What is going on, Panthers Nation? Carolina Dad here, your host of the Growls One Roar podcast. Today, we are continuing our 90-man roster breakdown, starting with the defensive line. Let's jump right in. First up on our list, we have Derek Brown. This man needs no introduction, 6'5", 320 pounds, entering into his fifth year, coming off one of the best seasons by an interior defensive lineman in NFL history as far as number of tackles. Quite an accomplishment. Did not make all-pro status, but I think a lot of that had to do with just how bad the Panthers were. He is the foundational piece of this Carolina Panthers defense. When you look at Frankie Louvu leaving, Brian Burns, the turnover that's happened even outside of them, YGM, Ettore Gross-Matos moving on, he's it. He is the piece that this team, I know you have Shaq Thompson coming back, but he's the foundational piece of this team that really is going to set the tone for the success of the Panthers heading into this year. Taking a look back at a summary of the season, I mean, we saw progression from 2020 to 21, small, incremental, big jump in 22, monster year in 2023. Not really, getting to the quarterback. We got to him twice, 2 sacks, 47 solo, 46 assists, 1 interception. I mean, yeah, he's had interceptions both seasons, in the last 2 seasons, I should say. And hey, I'm glad the Panthers gave him the contract, paid him. We don't have to worry about any of that stuff that we, had to go through with Brian Burns. He's locked up and going to be a difference maker for the Carolina Panthers. Next up on our list, we have Kenny Dyson, undrafted free agent, defensive end, number 55 rookie, 6'3", 235 pounds, 23 years old, out of Bryant. So, another guy that, as we get into a 90-man roster breakdown, of course, you're going to see some things happening here with Next on our list, we have Kenny Dyson, undrafted free agent, defensive end, number 55, rookie, 6'3", 235 pounds, out of Bryant. We know we didn't address a lot of issues outside of Crumedy on the defensive line. It's great to have bodies during training camp. But for me, when you look at, again, these undrafted free agent guys, are they going to have enough to make the roster? So I'm excited to see him in training camp. But as far as like expectations for some of these guys, not a lot for me right now. Next up, we have another rookie, undrafted free agent, Derek McLendon, number 40, out of Colorado, 250 pounds, 6'4", 23 years old. Now, one thing I will say, when I was going through the breakdown way back when we looked at the initial list of these undrafted free agents, someone told me to go back and I think reference the Florida State highlights and tape, and that he had a lot more production there as far as sacks. But again, another body that's being brought in. That's what happens with these undrafted free agents. You bring them in, see if they've got what it takes. Can they make the cut? But like a lot of these guys, there's a reason that they didn't make it. And again, I know we like the stories to see the guys that do pan out. Like I said, there's a reason that some of these guys don't make the cut. We move on to LeBron Ray, number 93, 6'4", 290 pounds, 26 years old, 2 years of experience, out of Alabama. Let's pull up his stats here. Not a ton of production, but did see quite a bit of playing time last year, appearing in 17 games in his initial campaign there. 18 total tackles, 6 solo, 12 assists for LeBron Ray. And I do think right now it makes a lot of sense that he would be here paired with Derek Brown and A'Shawn Robinson, and then a Jaden Crumedy, possibly, which I know Crumedy's probably a little different skill set, but at least LeBron Ray, Brown, and A'Shawn. Good to have depth, good to have bodies here that can sustain, give people some spells, because I know there's a lot of snaps going around on the defensive side of the ball. Next up, we have A'Shawn Robinson, defensive end, number 94, 9 years of experience, 6'3", 320 pounds, 29 years old, also played in Alabama. Came to us via the New York Giants as a free agent. Let's pull up his year-over-year stats. Started with the Lions, spent time with the Rams with guess who? Ejiro Evero. Spent last season with the Giants. Ranking it probably his second best season in the league, 53 total tackles, 25 solo, 28 assists. He is you might not see a lot of sack production. That's because he is a run stopper. Primarily, that's the reason he's brought in. And when you pair him with Derek Brown on that interior, it's going to be a stout. We should be a very stout run defense here in Carolina heading into next season. We now move into tackles with Ulumu Al, defensive tackle, rookie, 6'6", 327 pounds, big guy, 25 years old, one of those super seniors out of the University of Washington. Similar stance to a lot of these other undrafted guys. Just get them in here, see what they, if you scout this guy, and that's part of the reason you wanted him to sign here in Carolina, just didn't feel like, using a draft pick on the player, see what they can do, see what they can turn into. We move on to Popo Omave, another rookie, undrafted free agent, 6'3", 315 pounds, another super senior out of the University of Oregon. One of the nice things about these undrafted free agent, super senior players is they've got a lot of experience playing football, and you're just going to try to go in and maximize the most of what you can get out of them as an undrafted player and hope that they can contribute to the team. If not, hold a position on the practice squad. Jaden Crumedy, defensive tackle, number 96, 6'4", 390 pounds, 23 years old, out of Mississippi State, drafted by your Carolina Panthers. And I do like Jaden Crumedy from looking at some of his tape. I know with a sixth round pick, there's only so much that you can expect for some of these guys. But I do think we'll see a little bit of contribution from him, whether it's a rotational guy or coming in on, certain key downs, second, third. As we get in bodies in and out of the game, I do like Jaden Crumedy, and hey, hope he excels. I don't think he's someone that's going to get to the quarterback a lot, but again, more of a run stopper, plugging up the interior for the Carolina Panthers. We move on to TJ Smith, defensive tackle, 6'3", 300 pounds, played at Arkansas, 27 years old. Spent the past few seasons with the Minnesota Vikings. You can see not a ton of playing time. 3 games last year, 4 total tackles, 1 solo, 3 assists. But you bring someone in, some familiarity there, and you think about DJ Wonham, which we'll get into when we talk about outside linebackers. But another guy, a veteran on the defensive side of the ball that maybe with a fresh start could see a little bit. But for right now, I'm not like holding my breath that he's going to come in and take over the starting role. Nick Thurman, number 91, 3 years of experience, 29 years old, 6'4", 305 pounds, played at the University of Houston. Last season, probably his best season in the NFL. You can go back to 2020, 2021, New England, Atlanta. Last year, appeared in all 17 games, 29 total tackles, 11 solo, 18 assists. I look for him to pick up where he left off and get a majority of the snaps for Carolina Panther. Well, not a majority, a split between, probably him and Shai Tuttle, maybe throwing Crumedy in the mix and for defense, and then, depending on how we base out of that. Shai Tuttle, defensive tackle, 6 years of experience, 6'3", 300 pounds, 28 years old. Let's hop over. The former division rival, played with the New Orleans Saints for 4 years before hopping over here to Carolina. Had 39 total tackles, 15 solo, 24 assists, half a sack, 5 pass deflection. That's pretty big, for the defensive line, being able to get pressure when you can't get pressure, getting your hands up, knocking the ball down. Things that we love to see, right? I look for Shai Tuttle to pick up where he left off, like I said. So probably Shai Tuttle, Nick Thurman, Jaden Crumedy is going to be your tackles. And then Ashawn Robinson, Derek Brown, Brian Ray. So there's room for maybe another defensive lineman in that mix. We're just talking about 6'6" right there. You may carry 7 on the defensive line. Okay, let's move to outside linebackers. We have Amari Barno, recovering from injury, 6'6", 245 pounds. We've seen him all over the field throughout this campaign, changing to number 38. Last year appeared in 15 games, had 16 total, 10 solo, 6 assists, no sacks. Someone that's got to step up. He's coming off, again, recovering from the injury from last year. But he's someone, when we start talking about the outside linebacker position for the Carolina Panthers and being able to get pressure, you're going to look at our list here, and there's not a lot. Not a lot at all. So we're going to have to see some of these guys stepping up, and hopefully Barno, when healthy, can do that. I do think he's safe to make the roster. We have Clavon Chasen, outside linebacker, former LSU product, former first round pick for the Jacksonville Jaguars. Taking a look at his production, I mean, he's played outside of the 22 season almost every game throughout the year. We've seen drops in production, not a lot of sacks. Hopefully, this is the place that he finds his footing. As a former first round pick, you hope, or at least the Panthers are hoping that Dan Morgan, Brant Tillis can find something in him, because we're going to need a pass rush. And so, as it is right now, I put him on the fringe of making the roster. So I have Barno, Clowney, DJ Wonham, DJ Johnson probably in the mix. So yeah, it's slim pickings. So there is a really good chance that he should be able to make it. Speaking of Clowney, we have Jadeveon Clowney, 6'5", 266 pounds, 11 years of experience, 31 years old, played at University of South Carolina. Monster year for the Baltimore Ravens last season. 40 total tackles, 21 solo, 19 assists, 9.5 sacks, 5 pass deflections. He bounced around a little bit from Cleveland, Tennessee, Seattle, Houston, where he spent most of his career. Settled in Carolina for 2 years, but has said that, hey, this is a year-by-year job. He's got to prove it every single year that he's able to do this. And that's what I would expect for him coming into this season. Next on the list, we have DJ Johnson, outside linebacker. 6'4", 260 pounds, product out of Oregon, entering into his second year. Last year appeared in 13 games, 14 total tackles, 4 solo, 10 assists, no sacks, and 1 pass deflection. He can't help where he was drafted by any means, but I know a lot of Panthers fans, when this trade happened in the 23 draft, a little bit upset. And I think that's justified with just, it felt like a reach moving up to get him. Like he would have still been there later in the draft if we chose to wait to get him. This is the project that we have with a outside the linebacker room. It's probably not going to see a lot of production, or not as much as we would think. DJ Johnson is one of the guys that's going to have to step up. When you look at the roster, we'll talk about Clowney, we're going to talk about DJ, Wonham, Barno, who's coming off an injury. I would say should make the roster, but DJ Johnson's right there. Some people may wonder, well, is he actually going to produce this year? He's shown bits and pieces that, hey, as a run stopper, he has the ability to do that. But it's going to be a big year for him to prove that he should be in the league, because, like we said, we know how fast these things move. Right now, I do think he makes the 53-man roster just because there's not a lot of production or talent behind him right now. Move on to Iku Leota, outside linebacker, number 46, 2 years of experience, 6'3", 250 pounds, I should say, entering his second year out of Auburn. Pull up his full stat line, which wasn't a lot, but 3 total tackles, 2 solo, 1 assist last year. Saw a little bit of playing time, so he was an undrafted free agent that eventually, or made the practice squad, and then saw time later in the year as the Panthers were, decimated with injury. I do think because he played and he's got a little bit of experience, that there's a decent chance that he should make it. Possibly throwing him up there if Barno's still hurt, or Clavon Chasen doesn't pan out the way we think. He could be one of the 4 or 5 guys, which isn't like no knock on him, but it's, you look at this room of outside linebackers, and maybe we're going to pick someone off of waivers, but for right now, it doesn't look like the best, or at least when you think about replacing a Brian Burns, that we're going to, easily transition without him here. 2 more to go with Luigi Villan, outside linebacker, number 43, 3 years of experience, 6'4", 252 pounds, 26 years old, product out of Wake Forest. I don't think, so he did appear in 1 game last year, but didn't produce anything on the stat line.
And before that was with the Minnesota Vikings. He's another one that was, a practice squad guy that came up a little bit towards the end of the year, like you saw there. I don't know. I probably put Leota over him right now just because Iku got to play a little bit more last year, but that doesn't mean anything. But this room, man, this room needs some help, and we're going to need Ijero to figure out a way to apply pressure on defenses and get up those sack totals. Lastly, we'll look at really one of the biggest acquisitions on the defensive side of the ball outside of Clowney. I think it's actually bigger because he's younger. His production's closer to Brian Burns, but I think he's another product of a good system in Minnesota. TJ Wonnum, outside linebacker, number 88, 5 years of experience, 6'5", 258 pounds. Guess what? Played at the University of South Carolina. South Carolina defense got 3 starters on that side of the ball. He had 30 solo tackles, 8 sacks last year. We'll pull up his full stat line here to see year over year. Spent all 4 seasons before this with the Minnesota Vikings. Last year was definitely his best with 58 total tackles, 30 solo, 28 assists, 8 sacks, 6 pass deflections. He, to me, is more of your Brian Burns replacement than Clowney because Clowney is a year-to-year player and a little bit up in age. Wonnum's closer to Burns in age and closer to production. The big question is, can he apply the same pressure and get the quarterback the same way that he did in Minnesota? I think he had a little bit of help with, a little bit better defense, but we're going to find out. It's going to be a big year for this team. Well, folks, that will conclude your defensive line, your outside linebackers. I'll have one more video to go with linebackers and then special teams. We'll do that one video and that'll be a wrap. Anyways, this is Carolina Dad. Y'all have a good one.